right. It is Wednesday, favorite day of the week. I'll let y'all jump on. I hope everybody's having a good week so far. I can't believe it, but I got Annie Lalla to jump on this live. I love you too. Hi, you guys. How's everybody doing? I have a really awesome guest jumping on. For all of you folks looking to elevate your love life, you know, we all need to get better at that. Annie Lalla is a love coach. She is somebody I have been trying to get on for a very, very, very long time. Annie, you need to request me. I can see if I can try to request you too. Hold on, let's see here. Let me see how this works, guys. Give me 1 second, Okay, I think we got her. Hold on. Annie, sorry. Okay, here we go, invite. Okay, there we go.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Trying to make sure I have enough light for you. Okay.
Yes.
Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. Your beautiful face. It is so good to have you on. Thank you for making the time. I know you're busy, so I appreciate it.
Oh, it's so great to be here. I'm excited to help your tribe learn about love, relationships. Any questions you have are welcome here, even the hard ones.
Yeah, and guys, if you have a question, feel free to jump in. I mean, I could go all day with Annie, but I know you guys at home are interested in learning a little bit more about what Annie does. Annie, you are a love coach, and on your profile, you say that you are a cartographer of love and an ambassador of delight. What does that actually mean?
Yes, you know, I'm just going to move this camera where I get a little more light. I feel dark compared to you. There we go.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
I use the ring light. That's why my face, people are like, do you use the filter?
Great.
I'm like, no, it's lighting.
So a cartographer is someone who makes maps. Okay. It's someone who maps terrain or territory that has no maps. And so I call myself a cartographer of love because I see love as that we think of it as invisible, but I actually see it as a territory that exists inside and between two hearts. And I've just been mapping the complexities of emotions and interpersonal dynamics for a long time as a relationship coach. And not a lot of people have maps for this area. You know, we're so grateful when we go to a new town to have a map. And when people enter romance, the only map they have is whatever they saw growing up or what's around them. And that's not often the best technology available for them. So yeah. I map that and I give the maps to my clients so that they aren't wandering around in the dark, try to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think I got a PhD on grief this past year. And the thing that I say about that is there's no blueprint in understanding, you know, how grief looks. But when it comes to love, like we all want maybe two things. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we want to have autonomy and we want to feel like we belong. Or at least I feel like I'm taking baby steps at just sort of figuring out who I am and what it is that I need. And is that something when you first start working with clients? You have a great, your Instagram is really awesome. It's called Lalla Bird. I highly recommend people check it out. But you say, fall in love with yourself first. But I think people don't know necessarily, like it sounds quite simple, but what does that actually mean?
It's kind of cliched and cheesy, like, oh, you got to love yourself first. And I used to think that as well. But basically, in order to say I love you to another person and have it land, you have to start with a strong I. If you don't have a strong I and a sense of self and an appreciation and a dignity and a validity of yourself, then what is it? Who cares if you love someone? The I, it starts with the I love you. And so when you talked about just now, autonomy, belonging and autonomy, those are the two quintessential aspects of all successful relationships. Every relationship that's successful into the future has one partner guarding the sacred polarity of autonomy, independence, individuality, sovereignty, Ihood, mehood. And one person that's guarding the second sacred polarity, we, together, communal, integration, us. And you need equal amounts of both for a relationship to last and be healthy. We often get confused, like, isn't it supposed to be all together? A relationship is like an entity. It's alive and it breathes. It breathes in, together, communion, all smushed up in one. It breathes out, separate, autonomy, independence, go your separate ways. Come back, go away. Come back, go away. And that's how a healthy relationship breathes. And whenever you get into a conflict, it's often because the relationship is lopsided, too much together or too much apart. And a fight ensues to usually give space if you're too up in each other's business, or a fight ensues to create some kind of sudden surge of intimacy because you're feeling too separate.
Interesting. So what I'm hearing from you is there's one couple that fights for independence, and then there's one person in the couple, one partner that fights for independence, and then one partner that fights for togetherness.
Yes.
Typically?
Both right. And they're fighting over which one's more important. And the together one is like, relationship means communion and together, and we don't spend enough time together. And then the other person's like, no, relationship's about being a guardian of each solitude. It's about learning what you need and you want and expressing it. And they're both right.
Right. Yeah, of course. Well, and it's really interesting because I'm understanding my attachment style. And I am of the independent, want autonomy, dismissive avoidant. So I in conflict, I seek space. I want to run. I flee, I freeze, I shut down. And in my experience, the partner will be the fighter, will be the conjoiner. But so then that is that typical in a relationship? Typical.
It's typical. And whenever I work with a couple, I'm always kind of scanning which one. Gay and Katie Hendricks talk about it as the fuser and the isolator. Anxious, avoidant, you can call them whatever you want. And they're loosely related to gender. Like it sort of default tends to be the woman that fuses, but not always. It's not always. I actually don't see couples in the dichotomy of male, female anymore. I just see the me and the we. Yeah. They're both. And so if you really stand for autonomy, independence, sovereignty, and when things get emotional or intense, you need space, you need to pull apart to find yourself. The trick with that is, the feeling you have, Erin, when your partner is all up in your business and you just need to breathe, but they're chasing you around the space and they're trying to get your attention and you're just like, please. That it's kind of the feeling in your body of overwhelm. Mm-hmm. And maybe even anger or terror.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So if you take that feeling and you copy paste it onto like a clipboard in the sky, okay, and then you paste it down into your anxious partner, the one that's always chasing after you, that's exactly the same level of fear, anger, terror, overwhelm that they're having in their body. So when I'm working with a couple, I'm always having one partner realize, do you realize that when you try to move into a hug and ask them, do you still love me? And try to connect, that it's terrifying to them? And they're like, how could it be terrifying? It makes me feel so happy and safe. And I'm like, yeah, the thing that makes you feel happy and safe actually undermines their autonomy. And for you, the one that runs away and needs space and time away, do you realize that the feeling you're relieving in your partner is terror, anxiety, and overwhelm, the same level? So the trick comes down to who's the braver hero in the relationship at that moment? Who has the heroic resource to be the leader and step into the behavior that's counter to their instinct? So I used to be the one that runs away.
I was going to ask you what you're...
Yeah. Right? And my husband would need space. He'd want to like move out of the room. And over time, what I learned to do is breathe, ground, and regulate myself so that I didn't need to chase my partner for what? What am I chasing them for? For affirmation, reassurance, proof that I'm going to be okay. What I actually need in that moment is for me to feel safe and calm and grounded, but I'm making my safety reliant on my partner. I'm using my partner to rescue me, which says to them and to me, I'm a loser and I can't handle my shit. And you should definitely not have a baby with me because when shit hits the fan, I won't be able to hang. That's what you're saying. So I had to learn, you know, before I had a child, I was basically, I wanted to have a daughter, but my partner wasn't going to have a child with me unless he felt I could hang when shit hit the fan. And if I kept needing him to rescue me, I'm not mother material. Mm-hmm. So I learned to, in the face of wanting to go chase, and I literally used to chase. We were at a fancy hotel with a bunch of friends on New Year's Eve once, and we got into a fight, and I literally chased my husband into the men's change room with all the men, and he thought he was safe in there, and I was like, you messing with the wrong bitch. So I followed him straight in. He was embarrassed. I kept arguing with him. That was the time. He literally ran into a car and got into a plane, left the city. Like that's how. But in that moment, I realized as he ran into the car and went to the airport, I was mortified, horrified, and I realized I somehow got it that he was running away from me the way the woman runs away from the guy in Friday the 13th. Like he was totally being stalked. And when I got, oh my God, I'm terrifying my partner, I realized, oh, the terror I feel is the same terror he's feeling, which is why he's running away. Then I stopped that game. And then I was like, I need to figure out how to get feeling better without needing him to do or change anything. And I became a student of self-regulation, grounding practice, breathing. And then the game changed because now I don't need to chase him at all anymore. In fact, it switched. Now he kind of chases me around the house and I'm like, I need space.
Well, and it's magical that what I just heard from you was you got it. Because I think a lot of people would have villainized your husband for abandoning you. And in that moment, you
I did that for 3 years and that didn't work. So eventually I bankrupted the villainizing of them, because what happens when you villainize your partner is you end up convincing yourself that you're in love with a loser. You're in love with a psycho. You're in love with a broken, stupid person. And what does that say about me?
Right.
There's always an intelligence and a validity in your partner's behavior and expression that you just can't see yet. Always.
And the thing that I would hear a lot about myself, and I honestly believe this too, to some degree, is a lack of trust for self. Like if you're always questioning the decisions that you make or the person that you're with or the career, you know, then you just at the end of the day ultimately don't trust yourself. And so that sort of does go back to the thing that we just talked about, which is falling in love with you. Like, who are you? And really understanding your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, your past traumas, and you know, and then really being accountable with them, and noticing that I do tend to run away or I do tend to abandon, and noticing that I need to actually find ways to ground myself without having to
leave.
Yeah.
So the other partner grounds themselves by glomming onto their partner and feeling rescued. That's their inability to be a grown-up and calm their own body down, which, by the way, is the characterizing feature of a great parent. If you want your partner to have a kid with you, or if you want to have kids one day, what triggers the mating desire in your partner is their belief that you can handle your emotions and self when things get heavy. They inevitably do when you're a parent. So you're basically broadcasting, I'm not going to be a good parent. Every time you try to lean in to get your partner to tell you it's okay. Now, the same thing happens when you lean out. So you, Erin, historically would ground and regulate by separating and taking space. Your development path would require that you learn to ground and regulate while staying in connection. That's your underdeveloped muscle. Your partner's developed muscle would be to move away rather than push towards, and learn to go take a walk, go to the gym, go get some food, do something that's self-care to regulate rather than use their partner to regulate them.
Yep. Well, and you said earlier, it's there's not a masculine or a feminine, but I've been really investigating and looking into masculine and feminine energy and understanding. I think I do sort of lean into the masculine a little bit more. Is that something that you work on with couples? Are you seeing at this point any type of overcorrection or overcompensation with gender roles and masculine and feminine energy?
So I, alongside with the current culture, but I don't actually see the dichotomy between two lovers lined up with masculine and feminine anymore, because there's a lot of baggage with each of the words. So what I look for in every healthy couple is there one person guarding the sacred polarity of I, me, separate, autonomous, serenity, duality, and is there one guarding the we, the us, the together, the community? As long as there's one of each, this relationship has a chance. It can loosely be connected to, in general, there tends to be more men who are the I, separate, autonomous, and women who are more the we, but not at all necessarily. And not just with homosexual couples. Like, it's true for all kinds of dynamics. And so that is the main dichotomy. You're attracted to your unconscious mind. You're attracted to that which you don't have developed in yourself, because you're seeking wholeness. And if you're really good at I and me, you know at some level that you're not balanced. You've got one really strong muscle and one really atrophied muscle. You're seeking balance. So you fall in love with your favorite teacher in the domain that you most want, you most need to learn in order to become whole.
Wow. Right. That's why we find the partner that the parental figure maybe like wounded us in, so we can heal that wound.
Yeah, the way I like to say it is
I didn't say it right, but yeah.
No, you got it though. Basically, whichever parent you had to earn love from the most, whichever relationship with a parent felt a little more tricky or a little more fraught, that becomes an imprint, on an attachment imprint that becomes the blueprint for who you, with your radar hunting for a mate, you start looking for a mate that triggers the same flavor or brand of owie, heartbreak, that you got with that parent. Why? Because you want to hire someone who knows the part to play the scene with you. At the original time you played the scene with your parents, you didn't get the love the way that you wanted. But this time, when you hire the new actor to play the scene, then they know the script.
Right.
They help you. And this time you want to get the happy ending. This time you're like, I want to get the love that I didn't get the first time. And when you find a partner, you can train how to love you in the way you most needed, which makes them a better person themselves.
So it's actually a good thing. Like, that seems like a we're looking to just continue to hurt ourselves. Like, why would we want to find the partner or the parent that hurt us?
Because we're trying to replicate the wound, because it's familiar, and familiar is coded as safe in the nervous system. Yep. And we're actually trying to seek out a solution. If you want to create a solution, if I say, hey, Erin, I have a problem, math problem. I need your help with this math problem. I have to write out the math problem for you to help me solve it. I can't give you a new math problem. So I have to replicate the problem again and again, asking for help until someone helps me with the problem that I replicated, so that I get the answer, and then the problem can be done. So the way I think about it is, when I'm working with singles who are looking for their soulmate, I have them realize that, like for me, for example, I had a mom that was emotionally unavailable. She was very loving with food, caretaking, but just didn't know what to do if I was sad or scared. So I knew I was always going to find an emotionally unavailable man. That was just part of the code. So what I'm looking for, since I know this, is I'm looking for the smartest, most intelligent, best looking, most conscious, most willing to grow version of an emotionally unavailable man that I could find, so that he could replicate the wound, the problem, and over time, I would train him and inspire him to give me the emotional attention that I most needed, which would make him into a better man. And I found him, and I've done just that, and we're still a work in progress, but I get more emotional support and attention from him than I ever did from my mom, and it keeps getting better.
And you said the key word, you trained him, because I think at the end of the day, one of the things that I know I struggle with, which was not knowing myself, and definitely by not knowing myself, I wasn't able to speak what my needs are, right? So I'm like, I don't like you know, my dad was a really great example for me as a gentle, patient father. So it
Yep.
was more my mom I was looking to get that, that love from. And
Yep.
she took on the world. She did a lot. And so, my dad was like slower paced. So he's a good indicator of like safe masculine for me, in the way that he was really patient and he was very, slow in a way, which I liked.
Yep.
I felt very comfortable with that. But it's interesting to me that, that all relationships, I guess, work in that way, where we're sort of unconsciously sort of re-triggering ourselves. So then what happens when we are no longer being triggered? Does that relationship no longer feel? That never happens. That never happens. Yeah, that's probably true, right?
Because here's what happens. The triggers that happen in the early relationship, they happen less and less because you learn how to dance those through. You're like, I've been down that road. If I say this thing now, we're going to go down that rabbit hole for another hour, and I don't want to do that. So you learn that one. But what happens is you get more and more refined about the things that you fight about. They get subtler, more abstract. It's not over the toothpaste cap anymore. It's about, whether it's more important to lean in or out of a situation, whether reality is natively a wave or a particle. Like you start going more abstract and you start arguing over fundamental metaphysical laws of the reality, which is a much more interesting place to explore. Because ultimately, I think of two partners as two eyes on one face or two wings on one bird. And you need both eyes to get binocular vision. If you just have one, you can't do the triangulation. It's not as powerful. And two wings on one bird, neither wing is more important than the other. And if one tries to dominate, the bird will veer into the ground. So that dance of moving back and forth with power, with the eyes, with the wings, you learn a cadence, but there are still conflicts where you have to work out. And the technology for working out a conflict is basically collaboration. Collaboration is when you take two different perspectives or two different ways of thinking or being, and you find a way to cross-tessellate them to create a new emergent solution that was not available if you had used either of the other person's perspective alone. So something new is born. And collaboration, every conflict is actually a collaboration trying to happen that gets undermined, gets stymied, because someone either collapses, fine, whatever, or coerces, intimidates, threatens, manipulates to get their way.
Oof.
That's
Yeah, that's huge. This is amazing. Really quickly, before I let you go, what was the catalyst for you in being so passionate about helping couples and singles find love?
I don't think of, when I work with couples, I don't think of the couple that I'm working with. I see myself as working for the unborn children. It's the children that I care about. But my particular form of genius and skill is better used helping the parents of the future children work through their dance and their drama, so that when the child is here, they look up and they feel mom and dad loving each other the best they can, like two ends of a hammock. And then the child lies in the hammock and can swing because mom and dad are tightly connected. Doesn't mean they don't fight, but they have technology to move through the fighting so it doesn't damage the family system. So I'm trying to have every future child born into a world where they look up and they believe and know that their mom and dad loved each other, because every cell inside of a child has two pieces of DNA, one from mom and one from dad. And I just want them to know that they belong together, so that at a cellular level, the kids feel like all is right in the world.
That's such a cool answer. It's not for the couples, it's for the unborn future children that the couple may have. And that's really, really cool to be committed to that, wanting to create sort of a safety net for everybody. And you're amazing. Thank you so much. How busy you are. And I'm super grateful for you. So thank you again, Annie. Appreciate it.
It's been light anytime.
Happy Wednesday. Bye, you guys. Thanks, everybody.